Nice to be with you guys. I didn't fly in from too far today. I just flew in from home, which is in Belfast. I've got the longest commute known to mankind. I work in California, and I live in Belfast. Trov is a company that we started just over 5 years ago. There was a few of us had a crazy idea to enter the insurance space, and today there's 110 of us, which we get to play together and learn and work out what we do within this industry. Today my title is The Millennial Empire. The title's almost one of those futuristic ones. You go like, whoa, there's going to be a day when digital natives rule the world, and they're going to be on hoverboards and be on cell phones and crazy stuff, which is the world we live in today. So today, millennials are the largest generation, or population basically on the planet. So for the 18 to 35-year-olds are the digital natives who do rule our world today. And so there's implications of what has emerged so far and what we're going to see over the insurance industry in the next season. The millennial generation are different than everyone else previously. So many of you are millennials in the room. Some of you are obviously not. Just stating the obvious. Not looking at anybody particularly. But the millennial generation really or basically require on-demand service. So it's basically the norm. Because they've grown up with cell phones, they've grown up with Uber, they've grown up with Facebook and all the rest of it. That's the norm. So whenever they come to any other industry, that's what they expect. It's sort of like, they've got, you demand absolutely everything right now. So it's like the generation who just want everything. So we've got, this is basically what we put down. I want an unbundled experience. I want a smart experience. I want to have it when I want, to do whatever I want, and so on. So it's basically we put everything together to really demand on their needs. So it's entitlement, and in some ways, with a lot of the entitlement that comes with this generation, can be actually quite positive. Positive in a way that we could say, this is what you did. So if you're a millennial, this is what you've done for our world. So look at what you did for banking. This is the positive side of entitlement. You stood up and said, I will no longer stand in line at a bank. I will no longer write a check. I've had enough of all that stuff. So but the positive side of entitlement has sort of put your feet in and said, if you want to serve me, Mr. Corporation, you're going to do it on my terms. So this is what happened as a result. One of the things that you recognize, you think, if you're the dominant population or the demographic of today, is that you've got more money, dispersible income, or you're spending more transactionally than any other generation alive at the moment. And so as a result of that, industry follows money. So what happened? Why did the banks change? Because if they didn't change, they're going to lose your business. If they're going to lose your business in the next generation, they're going to die. The same thing will happen in every single industry in the world. There's big changes. So from my generation, as one of the older people in the room, I had an introduction into insurance. My introduction into insurance was, my first thing was that I leased a vehicle. So when I got a car, I'd just like to say my son started to drive this week, woohoo, he got his first car. And so in the middle of that, when getting a car, you're forced to get insurance. So the second thing I did is that I bought a home, but I couldn't afford a home on my own. Like I couldn't buy it for cash, so I had to get a mortgage. So then I was forced to get insurance. Then whenever I went to the bank, because I would sit down at the bank, and my personal banker would sit and say, well, Mark, you earn this amount of money, but what if you get sick? Or what about your future? So you should take out insurance to keep up, so you can keep the lifestyle of which you're accustomed to. So this was my life. So I was introduced to multiple different insurance products because of the age I was and because of the time that I lived in. It's very different today. is for those of you in the room who are millennials, hands up if you own a home in London. You're very lucky, you know, very few of you, but you're a few of the lucky ones. The majority of people who live in London, you know, who are millennials, do not have the opportunity, basically do not own a home. So as a result, there's big differences. So with fragmented banking that we're looking at, you're no longer sitting down with a banker. You're doing your banking or your payments and so on online. So as a result, there's nobody promoting to you or pushing to you insurance products. Secondarily, your lifestyle is very different. If you're living in London, you probably don't own a car. So if you're not buying a car, then there's nobody pushing insurance to you. If you're living in London, you most likely rent, and as a result, as a renter, you're not really getting insurance pushed to you. There used to be a day when you were, but most landlords don't even demand it anymore. But certainly, if you're going to the bank, you're not being asked. So this has changed dramatically. So from my world where I was being forced products, you're not. So what's the difference? So at the moment you've got, in my generation, homeowners, 89% of people own or basically bought contents insurance, so protected the things that they cared about. In the next generation, in your generation, the millennials, you got 13%. Isn't that crazy, the drop-off between one generation? So you've got the little blue bar and the little gray bar almost look the same. So it's basically been a cliff face of a change. So that's it's something to pay attention to, especially whenever you realize in the last decade that the amount of renters has doubled in the UK. So that's one decade has changed, and in one generation, it's reversed. This means that there's massive change facing us, especially within the industry. Whenever millennials aren't buying homes and they're not buying cars, you've got to say, well, what are they doing with their money? It's not like you're poor. You've got you're earning more than other generations did. So there's more luxury goods, more experiences, more concerts, more holidays. All of those things are coming in. So with that, then what do you do, and how do you protect that? You know, so you're seeing more protection around concerts, experiences, and things. Those things specifically that you love. As well as that, the risks are different from other generations. So you might rent a home, but when you go on holidays, you rent it out. So all these sort of things what generations didn't do before. So you stick it on Airbnb. So you're paying so much. I know I have several friends that rent homes and rent them out full time because they're making more money not living in them. So they're renting and they're subletting basically. So there's so many people that are doing this. I know Dublin has a massive issue of this, and they're trying to block it because there's lots of people getting into homes just renting them and renting them for more because the demand's so great. So the risks are very, very different. Just because you're a renter or you're renting a home, the landlord doesn't really know what he's getting anymore. At work, the gig economy is growing dramatically. So what you've got is more people than ever using their personal computers at work. So is it covered or is it not? You know, are you protected even if you have? So that's if you're a wedding photographer and you're showing up, what happens with all the liability? On holidays, it used to be you brought your swimming trunks and your t-shirt. Today you're bringing laptops. You know, you're bringing your iPad to watch movies. You've got your Beats headphones. You've got all the stuff. You've got a backpack that may be full of a few grand of stuff. It's very different than before. So all those things that you care about and the risks, they're completely different. And again, the risks are very mobile. But as you can see, so several years ago, I got into a bicycle accident, crushed my leg, was in hospital, and all the different things went through. Eventually went to insurance, and the insurance said, yeah, we will cover your Lycra, which is a scary thought to see me in Lycra. We'll cover you all the gear you're wearing, your helmet and all the stuff, but unfortunately your 8 grand carbon bike, we don't, because it's only covered when it's in the garage. So lots of things in the different, are changing today. So when you think about London, when you're working around, you see a lot of people commuting on their bicycles with backpacks with thousands of pounds of stuff in their backpack. Most of them are not covered and don't know it. The other thing is simple user experiences win. It's a no-brainer. You know, what you've got is like digital payments, like this unbundling of banks that we said. You're not standing in line anymore. If that's not being done, it's not going to work. Modern UX, filling out of forms and so on, or sitting on the phone for hours on end, people won't play that game. And everything needs to be entirely mobile. If it's not on your phone, most people are not going to play. I'm going to state the obvious. So if things don't change, and if insurance products don't radically shift to serve the next generation, the insurance industry will face decline. I want to say that it already is, based on some of the statistics that I've shown you already. It just hasn't hit significantly enough yet. But we're already on the decline, but it hasn't really hit enough to hurt. So people may ask, well, why hasn't insurance been affected in the same way as banking? Why hasn't this massive unbundling happened? Well, I recently went to an insurance company into their data center and took a photograph. So that's my one joke for the whole thing. It's archaic. The systems in insurance companies today are just legacy bound. They cannot move with the times. They cannot go to micro moments. They cannot do the single things that people care about. So they're very stuck and not able to do what really needs to do with basically these reshape products. So there's lots of interesting things happening from UX, lots of lipstick on the pig stuff happening, but underneath at the core, it's still very fundamental. There's not enough people have broken down the annual policy. There's too many things that are still stuck within those old frameworks. Within the middle of it, if you own a laptop, if you own a bicycle, or you've got three things that you care about, I challenge you to go online and buy insurance for those three things. You will find it reasonably impossible, or at least laborious, or you'll be committed to multiple-year policies, of which you'll have to have PDFs that you will store in a box somewhere which you'll forget about and not know what you're covered for. So if you think about this painful experience in comparison to what the millennial generation are demanding, they don't fit. So what we're trying to do is think through the new possibilities of that. So this is my opportunity to shamelessly promote Trov and what we're doing. This is why we exist. These pain points, this generation, the changes that are happening in the world, people who want to protect what they want, when they want, for whatever point of time. This is what we're doing. Whether we get everything right at the beginning, whether we do it all perfect, we don't know. The reality is we do know that the next generation want a new type of product. And that's what we're out to learn on how to deliver it. So one of the things we said, we've launched this sort of the world's first micro-moment insurance platform. I'll get to what I mean by platform in a moment, but ultimately the system basically powers on-demand insurance. I'm going to show you a video, and hopefully there's audio. No, I'm not showing you a video. That was a really good video. The video is not working. So video is basically showing you a picture of the future, but you're going to have to wait for that. So the future is coming. So something's wacky with the presentation. So basically for us, what we've done at Trov is we've actually looked into, the video would have explained this, but what we've done is we've looked into how do people want to get insured. So if I buy something, I want to have it protected. So if it's embedded in point of sale, why can't I have that delivered into my pocket so that I have basically a single item insurance product where I can have everything, that I don't have to have multiple products that are not PDFs. Let's digitize the whole thing. Let's get rid of documents. If I want to protect one thing, if I want to protect my home, if I want to protect whatever, when I do it, it should all just be, bundled simply and given to me digitally and in my pocket. So that's one of the key things. In addition to that, removing all the pain points around claims and engagement. So delivering a concierge that I can talk with or chat with at any point of the journey. One of the things that folks have been asking, we say, well, what do you protect and what's the breakdown? This is what Trov does today. We're electronics only at the moment, specifically in the UK and Australia. So this is how our breakdown, if you want the inside scoop of what we protect. So mass amount of cell phones. The reason we launched with electronics is because loads of data, easier to find, and we can deliver that fast. But that was only the beginning. Ultimately, what our vision was that it lets people, protect the things that they love. You care about your electronics, but there's probably other things you love more, like your bicycles, your handbags, your watches, etc. That's what's coming in the not too distant future, either end of this year, beginning of 2018. So we're going to open all categories. So basically, it'll be like musical instruments, jewelry, all of that. That's all coming soon. So that means what we're going to do is embed ourselves now at point of sale and post point of sale with multiple providers, so that then we're going to take out all the pain. So you no longer have to just add it or search for it, but we're working with multiple different channels so that we'll make insurance really, really easy and for you. So this is the inside scoop of where we are. So this is why we can do what we can do. For some reason, this presentation got absolutely scrambled between me emailing it, apparently. But you get the idea. What we've built behind the scenes is a full platform. So one of the reasons why we can do what we can do is we have zero integration into any insurance provider. So we don't touch their tech at all. So we've got everything. Basically, insurance providers for us is the far right here. Insurance providers bring us a license and underwriting capital. We do everything else. So we've got the liberty to be able to do any type of product in any way that our users want. So we've built we basically do the policy management, the fraud management, the billing, and all the claims as well. So imagine we have this. So basically, what we are is a virtual insurance company. So as a virtual insurance company, we can launch any product that we could dream of, or that our insurance partners or that our tech partners can dream of. So a few things that you will not read on our website that we're working on is that one of the things that you've got our flagship product that you may be aware of Trov. We're also working on some white label products. Internally, this one we have here is around mobility, and then we're doing an embedded product, which is using our tech right into the depths of some big tech firms. So if you can imagine a large technology firm that wants to get into insurance, that has lots of capital, we can be that middle layer that actually powers that. So one of the things is that we're launching next year is the world's first on-demand car product. So there will be, if you own a car, basically, and you want to share it with your friends, you basically want to do anything with it, and there's no annual policy with it. This is what you can do. It's for car owners and non-car owners. In addition to that, we're launching basically a driverless vehicle product. So we've already signed contracts with this, which we'll be able to announce soon. But this is basically, if you can imagine a autonomous vehicle that spits out data, we're able to read the data dynamically live, be able to see how many people get into the car at what time, at what particular risk, for a micro duration period, which could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. And as a result, then we're able to calculate the bill and price that through, whether that gets wrapped into the bill for the customer or wrapped into the bill for the provider. That's up to our partners. But this is one of the next big things that you will hear from us in January. I'm giving you the whole inside scoop today. The other thing we're doing is we're launching travel. What we recognize when it comes to experiences, when it's said about, well, what do millennials spend their money on? More holidays, more experiences, concerts, etc. We're getting into all of that. Because again, we can do micro-duration for those pieces. So we'll be launching these. So if you think about what we have as a platform, platforms are single items, or basically all the things are single items that sit on a platform. So whether it's travel, home, car, whatever, we're able to deduce all of those things and just deploy them and launch them, give a single consolidated bill that you don't have to manage lots of policies. So go with me for a second. Like, what if you take all of this, imagine you had all the data on all the things that you could possibly have. Imagine if you were able to walk into the place that you live, whether you rented it or whether you owned it, and you could press a button and it would geolocate where you live. So you could look at that data and go, yes, confirm. And it would pull all the data about the room size, the details, and everything, and it gave you a quote instantly. Said, yes, please, and that was you covered. And it said, do you have anything of value that you would want to cover in addition? Like, do you have a bicycle? Do you have anything you take on the go? And you could go, yes, 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 and add those things. You take everything of what Trove is today, and you layer it on top of renters and home. Imagine that was a possibility. It may be. Again, on homeowners, where you could actually locate all the risks and the details, so all the things that the customers don't really care remotely about, but insurers worry about. Imagine if we were to take all the things that insurers worry about, match it with the data instantly, and give the consumer what they really care for. And imagine if you had no annual policies with it. Imagine if you were embedded in at the merchant level, so with payments. That you were that basically if you're using Amazon Pay, Apple Pay, etc., and you're going to go on and you're going to start purchasing things, you purchase something and then in your receipt you'll say, well, would you like to have protection for this? In fact, we'll give it to you free initially. So why would you not take it? Imagine you're going shopping, and as you go shopping, you basically use your bank card. And with Trove being embedded in and connected to your bank account, is then all of a sudden it picks up and recognizes that you've just spent something that's significant. You've spent a few $1,000s, so we pick up the details and we basically ask you, okay, you've bought something significant. Would you like it to go into your Trove? Take a photograph, give me a little bit of detail, and done. So we've taken out all the friction, and these things get added in. Today we're in Australia, we're in the UK here. We're launching in the US this year, and it's like launching in 50 countries at once. Next year we'll launch in Canada, following year in Japan. So we're the only insurtech to go international. So this is why we've raised about 95 million in capital to give us the ability to push beyond where what we've been today, and to go and basically lead this thing into the future. So. Thank you. Hopefully you didn't tweet too much, because I'll probably get told off by my legal team. All right. Thank you.